Hi, this is Andrew Collins here, and I want to tell you what is beneath the pyramids. This is something that I have been investigating for many a year, with my findings published in a book called Beneath the Pyramids, the new edition of which has just come out. But what I want to tell you is in a series of small little talks. I want to tell you what is actually down there, or what we think is down there, and what it means, basically. So, starting off with the very famous meeting that went on in Bologna in March, involving the three members of the CAFRE SAR project. I'm sure you all know about their claims of having discovered something unique beneath the second pyramid. It was a story that went viral. What they used was SAR, that is synthetic aperture radar, coming from satellites that are as much as 400 miles above the surface, to map out not only the ground but what was beneath the ground. Now, we're not getting into the methodology or the technology behind this, but just take my word for it at this stage. And what they detected at Giza was the presence of five structures inside the second pyramid, which looked like the relieving chambers above the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, and also these eight tubular structures that penetrated down well beneath the water table and ended in these twin cubes, which their information data suggested were as much as 80 meters square, two of them side by side. Now, since then, they've gone on to say that various other things exist beneath the Great Pyramid, the Third Pyramid, the Sphinx, and the Osiris Shaft, and I'm sure they'll find even more potential underground targets as they go along. However, my interest really is in the fact that they're not the first people to say that there was something beneath the second pyramid. Going back as far as 1977, the Stanford Research Institute, working with the Ain Shams University of Cairo, detected beneath the southeastern corner area of the second pyramid large voids, which they said could have been human made in construction, 50 metres and 40 metres beneath the surface. They also found other structures beneath the Belzoni chamber, which is the dynastic chamber that's cut into the bedrock beneath the central area of the pyramid, and also fissures in the rock on the northwestern corner of the pyramid itself. And these anomalies that would have been 50 and 14 metres down would have been here beneath this huge megalithic pavement that goes from the northeastern to the southeastern corner of the pyramid. And some of these blocks are as much as 50 to 100 tons apiece. And I mean, in theory, they are to support the weight of the pyramid, but you know, who knows what is actually beneath them. Now, this is the plateau itself, done as a geological map to show the different so-called members, the different layers of rock, basically. And you can see here the three pyramids. You can see the Sphinx, which is off on the left, just by the word Nile of Nile Valley, and you can see in the northwestern part somewhere called the Tomb of the Birds. Now that's going to become important, but essentially the pyramid is the plateau itself is about 2 miles across. Okay, and it's quite easily walkable. But very little happens in the northwestern part, other than this place called the Tomb of the Birds. Now, the Tomb of the Birds is the entrance into a underground cave system, which myself, my colleague Nigel Skinner Simpson, basically detected and took a team out there to investigate in 2008. And I mean, this led into a whole natural cave system. The first chamber you come to is what we call the dome, which you can see here, which is huge, and leads eventually into a southern shaft that takes you much deeper into the bedrock. We were able to navigate it for a distance of about 150 meters, but it's very, very dangerous in there. There's huge blocks and boulders falling all over the floor. There are bats that fly in your face. There are poisonous spiders and huge bugs out of something like an Indiana Jones film. So it's not a very nice environment. It's very hostile, in all honesty, to navigate it. It's definitely natural. It was probably created as much as 100,000 years ago, possibly even more. And you can see two pictures here. And you can see that this is clearly natural. You have ochre coming out the walls being limestone, but you've also got what appears to be manganese coming out of the walls, which is black. The blackness you see here is not caused through heat, sort of the burning of lamps and stuff like that, not as far as we're aware. And you can see the huge blocks here that have fallen. And they go to a certain point, and then they just stop, and then there's no more for some reason. Maybe it's the type of rock has changed or whatever, or different seismic activity, but there's no more. That's me coming out of the caves on the fourth and final time in 2008. We named them the Kaf El Hanash Caves, which means the Cave of the Snake. Well, I'll tell you about that in a future episode, why we called it that. And this was the plan that I did of the caves at the time, with the Tomb of the Birds at the top, and all the interior of that. There is a lower area of that as well, which is investigated by Dr. Zahir Was in late 2009, after we informed him of our discoveries. And you can see the rough direction that the caves take. The question becomes, where do these caves go? Do they just cease, or do they continue on? Well, the evidence seems to suggest that they do continue on, because 1 year before our discovery of the caves, the Terra SAR X satellite passed over the Giza plateau at night and used SAR technology, which a lot of people say can't be used to see what is beneath the ground, and we're able to trace these two shadows going across the bedrock at Giza. Now, there is nothing on the surface that relates to them. They are not contours, because you can see the contours in red here. They're not roads or paths, and myself and my engineer colleague Rodney Hale concluded that they were underground. In other words, they were quite possibly caves and fissures going from the area of the Tomb of the Birds all the way to the northwest corner of the second pyramid, which you can just about see in the bottom right corner. This was exactly where the Stanford Research Institute actually detected rock fissures and voids in the rock at this point. So the question then becomes, what are we looking for? What really lies beneath the second pyramid? Is it possible that what the Italian team have discovered is in some way connected with this cave underworld? Are they natural? Are these structures natural? Or is it possible that they are in some way enhancements of this natural cave system? This is something that we'll start to look at in the next part of this series, which will begin with what the ancient Egyptians themselves say lies beneath the plateau at Giza. So with that, I'll say until next time.